this is the simplest way to maximising your borrowing capacity is looking at your expenses.
Yeah, and what I was just like coming back to, like, I think I'm a big advocate for decreasing your entertainment expenses, but I'm actually bigger advocate that you're earning more money, because you can only get so much wiggle room or play with decreasing your expenses versus increasing your income. There's no limits. Like, sky's the limit. You can increase your income as much as possible, which will help you increase your borrowing capacity so much more than just decreasing some entertainment expenses. We have talked about decreasing expenses before. We're going to cover it again, but in a different flavor, I guess. So what are some of the ways that you've seen people be able to decrease their expenses?
Go through your discretionary and non-discretionary spending habits, and this is why it's so key in this component of maximising your borrowing capacity, is that banks are looking at all this stuff. So when you're giving your bank statements to them, whether they're 3 to 6 months, they're scanning through and seeing what your habits are. If your habits are consistently Uber Eating every Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, they're going to take that as a consistent expense and amortize that over their calculations, and that'll reduce your borrowing capacity. Same with, I've had clients that they were taking $50 out of the ATM at a local pub every single Friday, and they saw that over their statement. It was consecutive, so
that's like $250 a month or $240 a month.
Yeah, well, so $50, so 4 to 5 weeks.
So I guess, like, if you're thinking about like Uber Eats every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, and it costs you, for you and your partner, $50.
Yeah, round numbers.
$50, $150 every week, plus $50 out of the ATM. That's $200 a week. It's about $800 a month. That's all ends up being a decent amount when you might not need that $50 towards alcohol, or you could, make your meal prep like what I do.
Yeah,
but that's
break down further. $800 a month. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What's that? Like, say you're doing that 10 months a year. It's $8,000 a year.
Yep. That's
it all adds up, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, even like the classic thing, $20 a week is $1,000 a year. Just thinking of it that way, like multiplying it over an annual basis, you start to see that holy crap, I spend a lot of money on shit. That's just Uber Eats. Banks look at that kind of stuff. They look at your cash withdrawal. So if you can, like when you're prepping to go for a pre-approval loan, you really want to remove all these these expenses out of your bank statement, because they don't want to see that stuff, because banks are going to look at that and say it's consistently going through, and that's going to reduce your overall borrowing capacity. So it could be 3 months or 6 months of pain, but you know what, like, put the big rocks in the jar first, right? Yeah,
definitely. And gambling.
Oh, yeah, don't.
I want to get you started on gambling. They hate it, right? Like, I remember a couple of years ago, I was surprised. We went to a friend's house and everybody was just putting bets on, and I not really into gambling and like phone gambling, like apps and stuff. And I realized, like, I'm a bit of an oddball, right? Like how I live my life. You guys will probably find that out, but I'm pretty structured, and like, anyway, that's besides the point. I realized that gambling.
Tell me more, Jeff.
I realized that gambling runs so deep in our culture and in our lifestyle in Australia. Like, it's so damn common.
Yeah, put the TV on, watch any sporting game. What's the most advertised, platform, like gambling platforms?
See, I guess I don't have a TV, so that's
oddball.
Yeah, oddball. Yeah. That's one. So, yeah, I mean, all you'd have to do is look at how much money is spent in gambling a year in Australia alone, to work out that, if you divide that by how many people are gambling, and then how much they're spending. Maybe you guys should look up maybe you guys are listening and you do gambling. Not to say that it's wrong or anything like that. Everybody can do what they love to do with their life.
Well, it's wrong if you're losing. If you suck at gambling, stop gambling, mate. Like, look at your precedents. Past performance is an indication of future performance. So,
Yeah. So gambling, quit that, right? Obviously.
At least you're going for a life.
Especially if you're addicted, and if you are addicted in being all seriousness, like speak to somebody, get help. Reach out to us, and we can recommend somebody.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's that is fair. Like addiction is a thing. "Blow Up the Pokies" by the Whitlams is a really good song on his friend that, I think he committed suicide because of gambling. So legit, if gambling is your thing and you need help, reach out to people. But also, how to, like, for us getting back into property, how do they look at the gambling transactions?
Yeah, well, gambling is addictive, so they don't. They see the transactions. If you're sending money to one of your gambling accounts, then
one of the accounts.
Yeah, I've seen some things. Man.
So people have multiple accounts, right?
Yeah,
and probably multiple apps.
Yeah, well, they all have different, like enticements. They're all fighting for your attention, but obviously, them gambling companies are making a lot of money, so maybe they're a bit smarter than Joe Public. But just going on to that thing, like expenses, it's the easiest way to help maximize your borrowing capacity, but just remove those, discretionary items out of your payments for 3 to 6 months. If you want to maximize, your potential, go through, and then we talked about this in the first episode about budgeting.
Yeah.
Like you can start to see, and it's a really good exercise to do because people just get so caught up in their day-to-day lives. They don't see, well, where is my money going?
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it could be caught up in things that, don't give you that, real satisfaction. And that's why I keep talking about the big rock in the jar. And I mean,
everlasting satisfaction versus short-term satisfaction.
Yeah, that small dopamine hit gets removed, pretty quick. What is it? I thought it was 3 weeks. But some people say when you drive your new car off the lot, then
really?
Then it goes then. But
yeah,
well, the reality comes because you're like, oh, I really want that car, for example, and you're working towards it. You're really stoked you're going to get this car. You've got it on tick, so you got like another $30,000 in debt. But I get to drive around this cool car.
Yeah,
and then you got to. You get the car, you drive out a lot, and you realize, shit, now I've got to pay $200 a week just in interest repayments on this car. And I feel good. That's great. If it's through a company, you might be able to get the tax deductions. There's always strategies around that. But say, like, if you don't own a place that you're either living in or that's growing in value, you've just purchased a liability. It's not an asset. It's depreciating over time.
Yeah.
So that's going to get you further away from your goal of financial freedom.
So in the first episode, we talk about the leaky bucket syndrome and how you can roll those things into an investment account. And just thinking, like, literally about how much people may spend on gambling. Say they're spending $100 a week, so $5,000 a year, roughly. That can really compound a lot. And I dare say people probably spend more than that on average. That could compound a lot into a deposit.
Yep.
And not only is it, so I'd like to think about second and third order consequences, which is basically, in layman's terms, is the compounding effects of you rolling the money that you would invest into, I wouldn't say it's a good investment, but investing into gambling versus rolling that into your account, your investment account. The first order consequences is saving for deposit. The second order consequences is it's helping your borrowing capacity significantly.
Yep. Good point.
And the third order consequences is it's increasing the size of the asset that you can purchase, which is getting you closer to financial independence.
Yeah, you can also make, like, whilst interest rates are reasonably low at the moment, but you can still, if you've got 20 grand and you know that you need to get to 80 grand to get to that purchase, put that 20 grand in a high interest only term deposit or something like that, where you're investing it in a way.
You're putting that money to work for you.
Yeah. That's what I did at the start. And it's not the best return on investment, but the risk
helps.
Well, yeah, if I put 20 grand into the share market and the share market just dropped, then now I've got 15 grand and it's actually got me further away from my goal.
The risk is higher than putting it in a term deposit.
Yeah. So there's different structures as well. I mean, even there's personal loan companies that they basically use your funds to lend out to car loans. That was one strategy that I looked into back in the day, and they were paying a 10% interest rate, and it was the way they structured their business was quite low risk, and that obviously increased my interest rate from that point in time. But different ways of going about it. You really want to just be targeting towards that, say, hypothetical $80,000 that you want to get to, and figuring out the best ways to get to there is going to, I guess, enhance your borrowing capacity, but also enhance your financial position in life. Because once you do go down that asset route and you're going into an appreciating asset and you're using debt, you're fixing that debt in today's dollars, which is going to actually decrease over time because you're obviously paying down the debt, but also the inflation rate and the value of that dollar today is going to be worth less in the future.
And you're securing a property
which is appreciating.
Yeah. So the debt's depreciating and the assets appreciating.